material need insecurities. In this study, the individuals are 411 adult patients with diabetes treated in medical centers all over Massachusetts in or around the year 2015. So you'll notice here that I'm being very specific about the location and the time. That's not always relevant. If you study, for example, people's resting heart rates, it doesn't matter if it's 2015 or 2010 or 2000. But here we're dealing with examining material need insecurities for people with diabetes. So that means socioeconomic factors might be relevant, including laws that may be passed and change access to help with food, access to healthcare subsidies, etc. So it's important to understand that there are times where the location and the time might be relevant, in that what you learn about individuals in this location at that time may or may not be relevant to other individuals in other locations or at different times. So for those patients with diabetes, we have information about whether or not they experienced food insecurity, as well as whether they had poor control of their diabetes or not. So that means we have two variables here. Both of them are categorical. Experience of food insecurity, yes or no, and diabetes control, poor versus not poor, or you could say it as poor diabetes control, yes or no. The values cited here, 64.1% and 41.6%, they are summary statistics. So the objective of the study is to examine material need insecurities and how it relates to diabetes control in patients with diabetes. And we notice here that nothing is imposed. The participants are studied as they are, and therefore this is an observational study. In terms of the specific design of this observational study, notice that there is just one random sample, and we just collect data about them at one point in time. So there's no follow-up over time to see how things evolve. There is no specific selection of different random samples separately. So in this case, just one random sample, data collected now. This is a basic sample survey. So how does this design help address the objective of the study? Well, being a sample survey, an observational study, means that it's very realistic. Those are real people living their lives with all the real constraints of their lives. And there is nothing artificial being imposed to them. There is no artificial setting of having to go live in a lab under unrealistic circumstances for a short amount of time. So we really see how things are for real in the real world. No limitations there. On the other hand, whatever we find, we will be able to discuss patterns of associations between variables, but we will not be able to tell why they occur. So here we see, for instance, that the patients who experience food insecurity, they are more likely to have poor diabetes control. There's nearly 2/3 of them who do, than patients who don't experience food insecurity. For those, less than half of them had poor diabetes control, 41.6%. So we see that food insecurity here is associated with a higher chance of having poor diabetes control. Is it because of the food insecurity? Well, we don't know. And we don't know because it's an observational study. So that doesn't mean this is impossible. So yes, it's possible, maybe, food insecurity contributes to worse outcomes with diabetes control. But it's also possible that other things are the reason. So for example, maybe people who experience food insecurity might have worse healthcare, or with fewer financial resources, they might actually want to minimize the amount of insulin they use so that they can use it for longer and not have to pay the copays or pay for the insulin as often. And maybe that aspect, the lack of complete access to the medication, is what is causing the poor diabetes control, and maybe it has nothing to do with the food. So we really don't know to what extent anything is contributing to that pattern. So why are we seeing what we are seeing? In an observational study, you can say it is factually correct that those with food insecurity had a higher chance of poor diabetes control than diabetic patients without food insecurity. But we have no idea why that is the case. We can only speculate that it may or may not be because of food insecurity.